The alphabet is a wondrous thing. Just 26 letters comprise the English language, yet with them we can express an almost limitless range of life-changing ideas and emotions. Even the simplest sentences can convey a world of meaning. From Shakespeare's "to be or not to be," to John Glenn, "one small step for man, one giant step for mankind," words transform. The English language is so handy that it even works in shorthand. Acronyms quickly spell out a world of possibility and emotion. IOI, I love you. LOL, laughing out loud. And my personal favorite, a straight-up gift from the Marines fighting valiantly in World War II, snafu. Situation normal, all effed up. If the shoe fits. Yet as handy as they are, I never thought that I would live in a world where I would feel the need to invoke the First Amendment before naming, quite frankly, the most divisive acronym in human history. DEI. That's right. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. The three most dangerous words in the English language today. These words matter. They have become weaponized. They challenge. They divide. No matter where we stand, agree or disagree, aligned or not aligned, our sense of safety, identity, and security are at stake. The battle lines have been drawn, the war wages on. Now, given the intensity surrounding these words, getting smart with first principles feels grounding. So let's take a moment to explore their history. Diversity. The word diversity emerges at the beginning of the Middle Ages. The word diversity emerges at the beginning of the Middle Ages. Yet it's the concept of diversity as central to the core of our democracy arises in the 1790s. American leaders such as Alexander Hamilton hailed the concept of diversity as they sought ways to prevent power from being amassed by a single person or political party. Even then, the fear of backsliding into monarchy was all too real. Equity. The word equity dates back to the time of the ancient Romans and is deeply connected with the concept of justice. The interconnection between equity and law acknowledges that what is fair must often be legislated, and understandably so. What we feel is fair for ourselves can often feel different than what someone else feels is fair for them. Inclusion. The word inclusion is more recent. It emerges at the height of the Renaissance and means to enclose, to make part of. It's not surprising that the idea of inclusion arises during a moment in our human story when cultures were colliding around the world for the very first time, destabilizing carefully cultivated concepts of identity. Its antonym, exclusion, represents one of the most profound fears we have as a human family. The fear of being abandoned, the fear of being left outside of the embrace of love, family, and community. Now, like many of you, I am a first-generation American. My relationship to DEI has evolved slowly over time. the aftershocks of lived experience opening me to new understandings of what it means to be an American at this moment in our nation's history. Let me explain. As a Luso-American, I am part of a Portuguese diaspora scattered the world over. From Boston to Brazil, Mozambique to Macau, Angola to America, I belong to a group of people united by the red thread of history, connecting colonialism to culture, opportunism to opportunity, and slavery to salvation, bound by a sense of global nationhood first established by the Portuguese during the Age of Discovery over 500 years ago. Now, despite unhelpful stereotypes, every immigration story is unique. For my family, it begins with a newly married couple, my parents, traveling from Portugal to California in the early 1960s to complete their graduate studies here in the United States. They struggled to build a life, to raise a family, to navigate during a time of rapid cultural change, the pull between the new world and the old, establishing an increasingly frayed plot line that would ultimately snap under the too heavy weight of it all. Now, like many people with Portuguese ancestry, my name is actually longer than the alphabet. Extended across 31 letters, my full name is Ana Maria Sandoval Pinto da Silva, and yes, it took me until the 5th grade to learn how to spell it correctly. Now, kids being what they are, it didn't take long for my last name to be crafted into a finely honed playground taunt. My name conflated with the Spanish ships Columbus used to sail across the Atlantic, the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. Now, identity is a complicated thing. To paraphrase Walt Whitman, we contradict ourselves. We contain multitudes. When we deny the power of identity, we run the risk of erasing ourselves. Like many kids living in between cultures, I struggled to find my own sense of place. Adventurous stories of nationhood and courageous becoming were captivating and comforting. These stories slowly gave way to reveal a more complicating narrative, with lessons often delivered across my grandparents' dining room table in Lisbon. Now, in our family, conversation was a contact sport. Ideas mattered. I grew up inside a family of scientists 2 generations deep. My father and my uncles had recently returned from tours of duty in Portugal's devastating colonial wars in Angola and Guinea-Bissau. And the aftermath of Portugal's Carnation Revolution was beginning to unfold. And all of them, my parents, aunts, uncles, and grandparents, had lived under the 40-year shadow of Salazar, the longest-standing fascist dictator in European history, making conversations at our dinner table one of the only places where ideas could be explored freely. Like the world-class captain of an intellectual rugby team, my rather august grandfather sat on one end of the table, and his co-captain, my brilliant grandmother, sat on the other. My aunts, uncles, and parents were arrayed on either side, interspersed by a gaggle of siblings and cousins. We were, by turns, regaled and assaulted by stories of scientific discovery, hotly contested political debates, and moments of profound poetic tenderness as family stories connecting us to the broader arc of the Portuguese diaspora were shared and reshared. Each story cast its own unique spell, contributing to the formation of a worldview thrust upon the arc of the globe. Now, lest you get swept up in nostalgia, let me assure you, Norman Rockwell, this was not. These discussions were intense, the tensions real. There was conflict, blindness, nuance, light. Like rubber bands stretched to their limits, conversations often felt hell-bent on finding the breakpoint, snapping back together just before the moment of release. Togetherness fought and found through argumentation, discourse, and debate. Despite their inadvertent blood sport, these discussions served as a masterclass in discourse, revealing the hidden tension between ideas and ideals. Over time, they revealed something perhaps even more powerful than any single debate, point lost, or argument won. We argued not because we needed to be right, but because we mattered to each other and we longed to be seen. In short, we are not listening. We pose, we posture, we resist, we dig in, and we fight. Certain in our righteous indignation that we alone are the sole holders of the truth. In the great performance that is social media, technologies amplify our worst habits. The stories that matter most, lying, unspoken, and forgotten. Casualties on the roadside of rhetoric as we speed by on highways made slick with impatience, intolerance, and fear. Now, the founders of our nation knew just a little bit about DEI. Assembled in the Pennsylvania State House in 1787, the founders of our Constitution got together and duked it out. There was disagreement, enmity, and plenty of intolerance. John Adams hated Hamilton. George Washington could hardly stand the sight of James Madison, and John Hancock called Benjamin Franklin an alder-pated, backbiting blunderbuss who could not sign his name to the Constitution without flirting with a woman first. So, okay, I made those last two lines up, but you get the picture. There was plenty of disagreement. But through their intense discourse and their commitment to the exploration of ideas that for some were almost heretical, this motley crew of farmers and statesmen, tradespeople and politicians emerged from the Pennsylvania State House after months of sweltering discourse with a document of unity beginning with these three words: we the people. Now, for some, the Constitution is imperfect. As the 3/5 compromise, the Civil War, the long, shameful history of Jim Crow, and the need for 27 amendments can attest. But the framers of our Constitution did something perhaps more powerful than just write a document. Through their discussions, they created the blueprint for community based on discourse, exchange, and inquiry that would flex and expand to encompass the scope of our nation's challenges and the scale of our nation's dreams ever since. Now, there's a funny thing about the word community. In its cat-rat simplicity, it feels almost pedestrian in its plainness, but contained inside its etymological history, the word community makes space for the English word intention, the old Dutch word to imagine, the Irish word to wish, all emanating from the same shared root word, to change, to exchange. Essentially, community is transformation. Community binds our society, our humanity, through an invisible, complex web of relationships, giving us the tensile strength and the imaginative flexibility to disagree, exchange, and innovate as we become anew together. Once again, our nation has crossed the threshold of crisis. The freedom of expression that is the beating heart of our nation is at risk through the age-old temptation to neutralize difference and quell the necessary mess of discourse. The challenges we face have been centuries in the making. Their resolution will not come easy. The journey will be long, it will be hard, and it has already been damaging. But there is a path forward: love. And yes, it is an acronym. L, centering the God-given strength that we all have. Can we listen and learn and then lead together? O, can we make space for others, opening our hearts as we learn and listen to new stories that take space alongside our own? V, can we give voice to our vulnerabilities, sharing insights and lessons learned? And finally, E, can we listen with encouragement and empathy, bearing witness to the beautiful gifts and heavy burdens we each carry? If the story of our nation's beloved, messy history is any guide, if we can dream this, we can do this together. Made stronger through the richness of our community, empowered through our commitment to equity, more resilient through the warm embrace of inclusion. One story, one dinner, one argument at a time. Thank you.